After 100 ayahuasca ceremonies, what have I learned? So some of you watching this is going to be a general video. I'll get into specifics about specific things along the way. If you're hearing this, you might go, wow, 100 times, isn't that a lot? I have a different perspective working with the medicine. I've actually lived here in Colombia. I'm going to present a little framework on kind of two hyper extremes in the medicine community. There are places, let's say in Costa Rica, where it's $1,000 a day, where they don't really follow or honor the traditions of the jungle, not the jungle of Costa Rica, but where actually ayahuasca comes from, which is Colombia, Peru, Brazil, and Ecuador for the most part. So that's one extreme where it's very westernized. The other extreme is going to a random place in Peru or something, paying $20 or $50 to sleep on a dirt floor or a hammock. It can honor those traditions, but it can be very disorganized. I've heard stories, specifically stuff around here, of this girl felt really bad after a retreat or a ceremony rather, and she's like, God, it was really hard. I felt like I was gonna die. And something in me just was like, hey, you don't take SSRIs, do you? And she's like, yeah. So they can be so disorganized. The shaman didn't pass out the paperwork. So it can, be unsafe just in the lack of organization. So there can be something super westernized gringo style, which doesn't really follow, let's say, the traditions of the jungle, or traditions of the jungle and disorganized. I've found there's a sweet spot in the middle. I've lived in Medellin, Colombia for the last 9 years. I've drank ayahuasca over 100 times, which might seem like a lot. And truth be told, at first I went there just with curiosity. Actually, that's not totally true. That's half true. I was curious, and I had Lyme disease, and I had just a bunch of health issues going on. And I was like, maybe this will help. Bumped into some guy serendipitously. I'd been living in Colombia 6 months or so at that point. And he's like, yeah, I'm going back in 3 weeks. I'm going to go. So I went. And my first 6 months or so, I was just looking to get better from the health issues I had. Probably, maybe more than 6 months, maybe almost a year. And at one point I had something, the best way I can describe it is like lift off me. That, call it an energy, call it a frequency of Lyme disease in one ceremony left me. Whether, I don't know how that happened. One of my theories is the ayahuasca tricked me into believing I could heal myself, and I did. Or the ayahuasca helped me, but I would more bet that it opened up the space and I healed myself, and I just didn't know the difference at the time. But from that moment, my health got better and better and better and better. But also, some of you watching this might go, bro, you did 100 ayahuasca ceremonies. Isn't that a lot? And that's a good point. If you're a shaman, you've done thousands. The main type that I work with, I don't know how many thousands he's done. He probably started drinking ayahuasca when he was 5, and he's, 40 or so. So there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings about the medicine, about how it works. And truth be told, man, a lot of stuff I was not integrating, not doing the work of the things it showed me. Going back to, ayahuasca is not necessarily fun, but it can be chasing a high of relief, of clarity, of a new vision, of a fresh start, of this time it's going to be different, kind of like you set some goals, you don't follow through, and then you set a new goal, or you buy a new book, or you sign up with a new this or that, and you're excited. So there definitely was a lot of me bullshitting myself, me wasting my own time. I've worked with ayahuasca now in these 100 ceremonies. It's been a little more than 8 years. I've had the most profound ceremonies in the last year because I've been actually following through on what it's shown me to do, even if it's hard, uncomfortable, or scary. I've gotten radically different results with it. And there was times when I lived a double life. My first 6 months in Medellin were boring. I didn't do the typical foreigner gringo, party stuff, drugs, women. But after that, I did. So it was Molly, smoking weed, drinking, Cialis, sex clubs, prostitutes, 3-ways, 4-ways. And I was living kind of this double life of, I knew there was something special to this plant medicine stuff. And I knew it changed me in ways that a book, a mastermind, a seminar, none of those things compared. And I was still discovering, I guess, exploring my sexuality of just having fun. I love Latin women, I still do, and just kind of going nuts. And it got out of control, like dabbling in the spirit world or my soul, and then just running wild like an animal simultaneously. So back in 2017, 18, 19, I think even into 20, life was a lot more messy. What I've learned in 100 ceremonies is ayahuasca can give you a spontaneous clarity, healing, understanding. It not always, but oftentimes or almost always comes with something you need to do. I've never said it this way, it's transactional in a way. There can be a price to be paid. Even if you have a really hard ceremony, one of my ceremonies was going back to a time I was molested by a Catholic priest. I did not remember that. I blocked that out for 35 years. So it wasn't making me relive that, but going through, exploring, and accepting it wasn't easy. It took a while for me because I was very stubborn and afraid. After I accepted it, though, and was like, holy shit, this happened, it was this spontaneous, huge relief, something so different than all my years with the medicine. At that point, it was only a couple years, that I thought, oh, I'm just feeling good after the ceremony. It'll be different, in a day, in a week. And it wasn't. Whatever happened in that moment after working through it and going into the discomfort, I was not the same person afterwards. So, but ayahuasca will not do it all for you. There is a give and take. Like when I went in January, I won't share all of it here, but it gave me like very clear instructions. Like, do this, do this, do this, do this. It was really, really direct, which it's often not. The next ceremony I had months later, it was not. It was information. But it was really, really direct. And I'm not an ayahuasca expert. And you might think, okay, this dude's done 100 ceremonies. When you look at people that are going on a trip to Peru and then they go back to Peru and they think they're a shaman and they're serving ayahuasca in Canada or the States, that's super dangerous. Like super dangerous. Like people, I had a ceremony in the jungle. It took me 18 months to recover from that. I don't think it was the best shaman, but I would say drinking with that shaman that took me 18 months to recover from, some of the things people are doing nowadays is much, 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 much more dangerous than that. So why I say I'm also not an expert, the main shaman I work with, his brother's a shaman. His father, who has since passed, was a shaman. He comes from a lineage of hundreds of years of that's in his ancestry. He lives in the jungle. So it's a different perspective on understanding this and honoring these traditions. But I'm not claiming to be an expert, an aficionado, enthusiast. I got some experience for sure. And working with the medicine, whether it's been 10 times, 30 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, it's kind of irrelevant. Because I can look back at when I was living that double life of going wild with Colombian women and sex and partying and things. And then, the next weekend at an ayahuasca ceremony, I wasn't getting that much from it. So it really was irrelevant that I had done 30 or 40 ceremonies up until that point, because if I was purifying myself one weekend, I was contaminating myself the next weekend. So it really, I want to say it didn't matter, but it can be kind of a spiritual dick measuring contest of like, oh, I've done 42 ceremonies. Oh, really? You've only done 28? Yeah, I remember what that was like back then when I only did 28. So because I've had a unique perspective, because I've been living down here, I'm moving back to the States next year for almost a decade, because I'm from Wisconsin, and I live in Colombia, and I've actually got to go to the jungle, live down here, speak Spanish. It gives me a unique perspective to share what I've learned, the mistakes I've made, the wins I've had, and what I've seen from drinking ayahuasca now, got over the years with, I don't know, a couple thousand people. And yeah, my unique opportunities, wins, and mistakes, man. I made a lot of them. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you very soon. Phil here. New mic.